Hey everybody, Turns Up here. Today we're going to be looking at Aielund Saga. It's a sweeping, epic campaign available for Neverwinter Nights. If you have the Enhanced Edition, you can download it from the additional content without having to outsource the mod. I highly recommend doing this. It's a high fantasy romp, complete with saving a princess and a kingdom from an ancient evil. Each part of the campaign covers an aspect of this series, but with Chapter 1 and 2 being extremely tied together, hence the combined review. Now you start with a level 1 character, and you can expect between 15 plus hours to complete both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. I recommend some sort of fighter build with rogue mixed in, but there are plenty of options available even if you want to select the monk. If you don't find the drops you want, there are several vendors scattered throughout the playthrough that's going to help mitigate that equipment needed. But before we dive too far down this rabbit hole, remember to like and subscribe for more content. Let's go ahead and dive in. Aielund Saga is a pretty interesting piece. While it shows a lot of promise in character building and situations, the dialogue options sometimes leave a lot to be desired, with it assuming a very characteristic approach akin to the responses of someone trying to be just a little too much edgy than they really are. Now don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times that the answers presented will go with or against the alignment choice the person has made. This allows for a ton of different outcomes and circumstances to take place in any given playthrough, which makes the roleplay elements pretty strong in my opinion. If you want to be evil or good, lawful or not, you're going to be prompted quite a bit to roleplay out your character, and in the end, I really enjoyed this. As far as the encounters go, there's a lot of copy-paste monster types. I think a lot of this can be chalked up to how long ago the first part came out and the monster variety available at that time. But this doesn't mean there isn't a surprise here or there in the encounters. This makes the difficulty hard to gauge, as most encounters you'll just go ahead and rip right through. It's the moments where set pieces are put in place and you go through conversation dialogue to engage that really some of the more difficult fights take place. And these sequences, I wouldn't be disheartened to say that you might have to reload and try it again. I know I did. On top of that, there's a couple weird bugs. They're actually game-breaking bugs. One in particular is the Golden township that we ventured to, and we have to talk to a ship's captain at one point. The sequence is notorious for not triggering correctly. Now don't worry, when you get to this part, there is a guide for correcting this by the author, and all you have to do is just research it through Google with those character names and it'll pop right up. The whole time I played this module, I felt that the storyline was absolutely captivating, complete with its own lore and locations. Now this is a big plus. While I'm a huge fan of Forgotten Realms or standard D&D settings, it's refreshing to stumble into someone else's world that they have created, and Aielund does a good job of this. With the introduction talking about the barbarians at the gate, I couldn't help but inwardly feel drawn to our own history and thinking back to when Romans had Rome get sacked. It definitely helped with the character building having this world set in place. As far as the tile pieces, there wasn't anything marvelous to behold, and most of the tile sets were pretty standard fare. Actually, I think this is the weakest part of Aielund, the use of terrain. While I give it a pass, it is far and away from a great use. My biggest gripe with it being the towers or rooms with strange doorways that don't highlight well to lead back out, and you'll just sit there and stumble around for several minutes trying to locate the correct angle for the doorway to appear, and it's really quite bothersome. As far as the music goes, I feel that a lot of the tracks came from the base game, but there are moments where differently selected musical choices really help to inspire the location and give it a better feel, especially in wooded areas. Now here's a little snip just to give you a listen. To wrap this all up, I'd say that Aielund Saga, so far as Chapter 1 and 2, present a very fleshed out world. It offers some interesting thought candy as you weave through the storyline, trying to figure out what is going on, why has the kingdom been thrust into a war, and what is to come. It's strengthened by good heroes and villains written into the story to follow. Who is behind this particular murder, or why is this particular conspiracy going on? You can definitely tell it is limited by the age of when it was first created, but it doesn't hinder what is underneath. A great story, at least so far. Well, that's it for my review of Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one. Later.